eventually you get absorbed in and you are Sonic.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to No Repeat. It's a podcast where we pick 3 songs every week with no repeats and no do-overs to create a perfect playlist for every stew that you've got going. I'm Taylor Olmstead, and I'm joined by my co-host, Tyler Reed.
I can't believe you were... I thought about making the reference.
I stole the Carl Weathers right out from under you.
You know how much I love a Carl Weathers.
And Sean Evans.
I once ate a soup that was principally composed of Throm the Chunky.
Well, Tyler, what was our challenge this week?
This week, we're trying to find the perfect song for making soup. Submitted by Vols to the Walls. Thanks, Brett. And if you have submit your own challenge, you can DM us at us, NoRepeatPod, on Instagram or Twitter, or you can always send us an email. Wild. NoRepeatPod@gmail.com. Thanks so much.
All right, so I'm going to ask what's potentially a dumb question. Have you ever made soup?
Yes.
Not as much as I would like to, but yes.
You know, I hadn't until last year, maybe, because I just never had a stock pot. Which is kind of the requisite piece of cookware to make soup.
That's when you made your first soup?
I did. I made a good beef and sausage vegetable soup. It's nice and spicy. I'm into it. And I gotta say, as a proponent of the crock pot, the slow cooker, it seems like I should have made soup a lot earlier. I mean, I made chili, but that doesn't count. But I'm all about the foods where you do the prep, like in the morning or something, and then you just leave it. Just leave it like all day. It's like lazy cooking. It's just, you know, your house starts smelling good, and you come home, and it smells amazing, and the food's just there. It's hot, it's ready to go. That's the dream for me. We're in soup season now. I just made another pot of vegetable soup last week. I got a bunch of it in the freezer. I'm into it. I'm ready. It is soup season. What about you guys? What's your soup making strategy here? Do you have a particular soup that you make often?
Every once in a while, I make it, but I'm kind of lazy. I don't like to make vegetable soup from scratch or something. So basically, I'll just get like a can of soup from the store, of condensed soup, and then I'll just add stuff to it. I know that sounds weird, but what I'm about to say, but I'll like get some frozen vegetables. So lately I've been getting succotash mix, which is, for those of you who don't know, it's corn and lima beans. And then I just roast it in the bottom of the pan so it gets somewhat charred. Then I add the soup in there and add garlic, and I kind of just doctor it up after that to make it into something. Usually if there's some leftover meat or something, I chop it up and put it in there. It's kind of a catch-all meal. It's not necessarily like one of those things that I make all the time. Although we do grilled cheese and tomato soup. I'm not a huge fan of tomato soup, so not always my go-to thing, but I'll make some stuff like that.
You know, how many times have I made a soup? It has to be like 5 or less, and which is sad, honestly. I've made chili like a lot, and as you said, that kind of doesn't count. I think I've made like I think I've made like a creamy tomato one time, like a tomato bisque, and then like maybe I've made like a potato, like a potato soup, and I think that's really about it. And I don't know, they both feel like not very like soupy soups. You know, I haven't made like a vegetable. I haven't made like a maybe like a more of like a regular tomato. I don't know. I haven't really made like a stock and then sort of put a bunch of stuff in it. I feel like that's a missed opportunity. I feel like that's a very easy meal to make, or at least it's something that you can kind of put in. You can sort of get started early, and then you can kind of let it go for a while, as you're kind of saying, Taylor. And I feel like as someone who says out loud that they like to cook, feels like a missed opportunity.
I don't know. I mean, it's not necessarily like a cooking type of meal, you know? Like, it's kind of, like Sean said, it's kind of a catch-all. I am reminded of a thing that we used to do in Scouts, and I don't know if you guys ever did this. They had some goofy name for it, but it was essentially like a bring your own soup, and they mix them all together in a huge pot. Did you ever do this?
Mm-mm.
We would do this at like our winter camp out when it was extremely cold because Ohio, and it was, you could bring any condensed soup as long as it wasn't a cream of. So like vegetable, noodle based, anything like that. And you just mix them all together in a giant pot over like a kerosene stove or something. And it actually turned out pretty good. And I think this speaks to kind of the idea that like, it's pretty hard to mess up soup. Like, you can throw just about anything in there and it'll be fine. Now, there will be parts that you may not like, and there are times where I've had a soup where there's something in it that I'm like, I'm going to eat around that. You know, I made a huge thing of soup last winter and like froze a bunch of it before I remembered that I don't like artichoke hearts, and there's a ton of artichoke in this soup. So I still have like 2 containers of it in my freezer I'm probably never going to eat. But like, it's a perfectly fine soup. Other than that, I could just remove those and it would still be a good soup. That's kind of the beauty of soup, I think. It's like, it'll take whatever you throw at it.
It was actually super nice when I worked at Coffee Emporium because they would have like a rotating like soup, like almost like per like on like a weekly basis that had like both like a meat and like a non-meat. So I feel like during my stay there was like almost every day I was like, well, I love a new rotating food item that I don't have to like make an actual choice. I can just be like, oh yeah, which one of these sounds better? You know, I feel like I'm a big like a big broccoli cheddar. I don't know why I keep thinking about only ones that are like creamy, like sort of like, because those are like so much harder to do. I'm like, I don't know. I've just never really been like a big chicken noodle person. You know, like I haven't like, or like just like a vegetable soup. I don't know. I think I like a thicker soup because I want to put like a bunch of stuff in it. I want to put like a bunch of crackers. I want to like dip dabble some little hot sauce.
I mean, you can do that to other soups.
I mean, you can.
I love a little hot sauce in a tomato soup.
Yeah.
Some crushed black pepper. You know? Sean, what is your go-to soup? What is like the pinnacle of soup for you?
I don't.
You don't have one?
I don't really know. I'm not a soup person like that. I use it usually to augment something. It's not something that I seek out.
That's where you're wrong.
I feel like that, but I have rules. You know, lots of other people have rules that I'm not allowed to step on, and one of my rules is restaurants that only serve salad are not good, and restaurants that only serve soup or that they're known for is also not good.
I mean, I do think that soup is oftentimes augmented by something else, but I love a hearty soup that you can just like, that can be the whole meal. Like a good chicken and wild rice. If it's real rice heavy, like that's my jam. Love that. So Sean, since you aren't a big soup person, how did you pick a song this week?
I have made soup, so I thought about what a soup was. And then I thought about going in and finding a song, and this morning I was driving to the hardware store and I had on a playlist of, I forget what it was, crazy soupy music or something along those lines, and then this came on and I was like, this is it. It's 2 minutes, it's got secret sax in it, and it's something that Tyler would totally pick, and he's kind of been vibing off my stuff lately, and it's time to get some revenge. So yeah, and soup is a revenge best served hot.
I suppose. Tyler, how did you pick?
I can't believe Sean's done this to me. I can't believe he did this. What's funny is that, well, you know, I suppose we'll save it for when we talk about Sean's song. I don't know. So what I was thinking about was, I wanted a song that felt warm. I wanted a song that added comfort. I wanted a song that felt like a blanket. And I feel like there was a few different ways I was kind of going in the way I wanted to evoke that warmth. And I was sort of noting on, as I was kind of like going through like all the songs I had picked and sort of was like trying to, like, I was thinking about it, and it's like all these songs that felt warm were really songs that were not very happy. They were, lyrically, topically, were not, these people were having a good time. So I feel like the warmth is to help you, is to add to the healing factor of it. It's to make you feel better. And so I feel like that there's a sort of nice poetry to that. And so really kind of what ended up happening is I just sort of picked the song that I felt like was like, when I thought about like a song that felt warm, I just sort of started with that song and then sort of like built out from there, because I really like to pick a bunch of songs just right off the bat, like songs that I feel like I've kind of been like thinking about, and then kind of let Spotify kind of do a little bit of enhancing, or like have it like recommend a few things to me, and then I'll kind of like add more to it. And I was just like, you know what? I feel like this one is just it. You know, I should just pick the one that started it all rather than like trying to find like the better one or whatever. But I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of different ways you could go about doing this, right? I feel like there's one of the directions sort of like more of like a Philly soul, or like just like sort of like an R&B, like an older, like a more retro sort of like a 70s 80s sort of like really strong vocal performance that's got like a nice sort of like full band in the back sort of supporting a really strong vocal performance. I think that would be like also like would feel good. I was thinking about like sort of like walls of sound as well as like sort of like that weighted, like almost like a weighted blanket in a way. But I feel like sometimes it gets a little too like ethereal, a little too like mushy. It's like you need a little bit more form to it. So yeah, there's a few different directions. I feel like I had to restrain myself, from which I always have to do, is because I picked Fleet Foxes a little too early in the podcast lifespan, that I was like, well, I can't choose this. But I feel like you could probably throw on most of the Fleet Fox. Any for me is probably pretty good. So
for me, I was all about the simmer. You know, I think the thing that makes a good soup is that you put everything in there and then you just let it simmer for as long as humanly possible before you get hungry and need to eat. And so I wanted a song that kind of had that simmering vibe, you know? It's just kind of doing its own thing. It's over there in the corner. It'll be there when you come back to it. Not necessarily background music, but like a comforting presence in the room, you know?
Yeah, you're not really being active in the cooking process. You're just kind of hanging out.
Exactly.
So you're sort of just vibing. You're just sort of like, not to. I feel like there was definitely like a year or two ago where it's like vibes, baby, for like every, like just as a way to describe literally anything. But like, yeah, I feel like making a soup is like, you're just trying to find something that gets you just, I'll get there like a little bit. Just trying to have a good time, trying to feel all right.
Yeah.
Like, it's gonna presumably take a long time to get to where you're going, so it's like you're not in like a rush. You're not.
Well,
you're
and
not
it's one of those few things in contemporary life that like encourages multitasking, but a limited set of multitasking, right? Like, you know, go watch a TV show or something. Your soup's gonna be done in a while, but you can't like leave the house.
Right.
You know, you have the stove on. So you have to be kind of like situationally aware of what's happening, but not that aware. And so it gives you this kind of window of just like liminal time, so to speak. So that's just kind of what I was after. But let's dive into some picks. Does anybody feel strongly about going first?
Let's start with Tyler's, because his is unlike ours.
All right. Tyler, what do you got?
For the first time. How am I the black sheep in this moment? This week I chose Big Wheel by Samia.
I got a big wheel in Montana, and he told me yesterday that a year ago he looked me in the eyes and lied to me. Got an old friend in Japan, she's been mad at me before. It's just that she and I have got nothing in common.
So I was absolutely smitten by the song when it came out about 2 years ago. I think it's sort of like this really great mixture of just a really great vocal performance. Like, it's really kind of hard to describe like what makes it appealing to me. But so there's that like element, and then sort of like the instrumental is it's almost indescribable, kind of like what's kind of going on. But it feels like there's almost just like this, just sort of like warm reverberation throughout the whole song that just feels good. Feels like like I said, it's almost like a warm blanket. And it's sort of like this has this calming feeling to me. And I don't know, it's not really like lyrically this. I feel like I didn't necessarily choose this song because of the lyrics, and I felt like this was a real episode based on vibes and not necessarily like. And I feel like I've been choosing too many songs lately that have been like, oh, the lyrics relate to the challenge, so I decided, you know what, we're not gonna worry about it. But I do sort of really admire sort of like the poetry of the song and the way it's sort of like formatted, in that it's sort of like this sort of like almost like compliment sandwich of like issues she has with people, or like these situations that have occurred, and she's sort of like, I'm just doing my best. And I think it's really kind of fun how it's sort of like the narrative structure sort of like goes through like all these different people, and then it ends up at the end where she just sort of like lists them all out and like in order, and I think that's it just sort of just feels good. So yeah, so I think it's just a real warm song that just makes you feel good. And I feel like it doesn't ask too much of your attention, so it's perfect for making a little soup with.
So once again, hearing you explain it, I think helps me like it a little more. Not to say that I dislike the song. I was just like a little unsure of it as a pick for this challenge.
Sure.
But I think you're right. That synth bed is really kind of like what holds it all together and what gives it that cozy feeling that you said you were going for.
Yeah.
You know, lyrically, yeah, definitely not a soothing song.
No.
I mean, it's not like a super downer, but it is kind of like a list of someone's problems. And that degrades like the lyrics, right? Like, I do think they're very nicely written. I love the line, "I've got a lover in my bedroom, or at least the smell of him."
Mm-hmm.
Like, wow, great imagery there. I think, you know, it's a little more upbeat tempo-wise than I would have picked for this. It feels more like a brisk walk rather than kind of lounging around waiting on your soup. But
A little wiggle.
I guess, yeah. Maybe dance around the kitchen a little bit.
Yeah.
I really like it, though. Like you said, her vocal performance here is really captivating. I think it's a great song.
I don't know, man.
Okay.
It's really not doing it for me.
Okay.
It feels like a very toned down Vanessa Carlton, but
I could see that. Or like it is a little close to like Maggie Rogers.
I get that it's like a chill song to make a soup to, but it just feels empty a little bit. Like, how do I say this? When you listen to it sonically, there's a lot of things happening. There's little guitar plucks that are happening through the chorus. There's some ethereal stuff that's happening, and maybe it's just the way that it's mixed on YouTube, the way that I heard it, but it just feels cliche in a not nice cliche way. Like, it feels like maybe it should be soundtracking a Hallmark movie or something about a soup store.
Okay.
It's like,
is it bad that that's the part that stung the most? Everything else here, I was like, yeah, whatever. I mean, sure, okay, you can say whatever you want, but you're like, Hallmark movie?
Yeah, it's a little corny. I don't know. Do you have? I guess in B-sides, I'd be curious what your B-side was, because when you said that you were thinking that there might be something better out there, I'm curious what that thing is, because I feel like it might have been better.
Oh, almost certainly.
I don't think this is a bad song. I don't think that she's any less of an artist or this isn't a good song to make a soup to. I just am not listening to this to make a soup.
Sure.
I don't know.
And that's okay. Everybody's soup can be a little bit different.
Yeah.
Why don't you?
Okay.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about your soup, Sean?
Okay. Well, I'm ready. I'm ready for the hammers to rain down from the sky on me now. So, this week I chose "Flaming Sword" by Feeble is Close. I spoke a little bit in the beginning of the show about how I ended up picking this song. It's because it's just a crazy random assortment of all kinds of... Well, I think there's 2 saxophone players in this band, actually. And... I went for it this week. I got my opportunity to just go absolutely nuts, and I went there. Soups to nuts, actually. And
Sean's like, jazz is pretty masturbatory, and so is making soup.
I'm not gonna lie though. It just kind of feels like that. Like, I have taste. Here's my soup.
But whatever, it doesn't matter. You can do anything.
So yeah, it's a lot of abstract craziness. I do like it. I think the piano is nice. I like her voice. It starts with and goes through these weird jazzy feelings, but really why I thought it was nice is because it reminds me of Milo Zydeco. For those of you who are listeners of the show, I picked a song of theirs a while ago. But it kind of has that, I want to say, non-pretentious vibe to it. But then I totally watched the live performance of this, and I looked at the audience, and they are all super pretentious. I could see everybody in there knowing that they are the expert of some abstract form of music. And I was like, oh, man. But I think it's just a cool song. It's kind of crazy. It kind of has a soupy vibe to it. There's a lot happening. I mean, come on. You heard Taylor's story about bringing your own soup and putting it in a big pot. You're telling me that tastes all the same? Like, that you don't get, like, some craziness. You're just... All of a sudden you have, chicken and letters in the same spoon that you probably have a pea and a piece of chicken. Come on. What's more soup than this song?
I get where you're coming from here. I understand this idea of, like, soup can be a little chaotic. It's kind of a little bit of everything all thrown together. This song is that, right? It's math rock, it's experimental jazz, it's lounge, it's a lot of stuff. I listened to this band as a contender for an upcoming episode for the end of the year, and it bounced right off me. And I don't know why, because like I enjoy Black Country New Road, who are like a slightly more rock version of this same kind of thing, but there's something about this. I don't know if it's her voice or if it's like the truly experimental structure or what, but like it's not my vibe. I want to like it though, is the weirdest thing. I think it's because of the pretentiousness, right? And like that this album has been written up on a bunch of music blogs that I'm like, I'm supposed to understand why this is good, right? And I don't. I don't. I understand like technically the performances are good, but I don't understand, like, as a whole, like, what the vibe is trying to be here. It's just not a genre I know a lot about. I can see how, as somebody who's not a huge fan of soup and general coziness, this might make sense for you, I guess, but this ain't soup for me, dog.
Sean says, my favorite way to consume nourishment is to be thrown to the wolves and fighting in the brisk darkness of winter and having nothing but a spear and trying to slay the elk.
Yeah, he's slaying the elk for his stew himself. Thank you.
You know, my heart has so much joy that Sean decided to choose a jazz song, and really just means that slowly our tastes are gonna converge in some way. Unfortunately, Sean then decided to be like, yeah, this song's like wacky cuckoo, blah blah blah. Makes the you're like, oh, okay, well, all right. If you're gonna make fun of it, basically, you're like, this song's crazy, just like a soup. They're like, this is.
He's fine. Everybody, Tyler is fine.
I'm fine. I don't care. I'm just glad you enjoyed a song and you picked it. Because that's the first step. I don't know. I feel like.
Do you like this song?
I do. So at a base level, I'm already in. I just assumed y'all have already kind of hyped me up as Mr. Jazz here, so I just was like, yeah. Of course I like it. What's funny is that because I think Pitchfork had written this up, and then my I probably shouldn't reveal, but my neighbor is like a local like sort of like soundscape artist, and he posts like his music opinions a lot, and he was really into this album. So I was like, all right, well, this is really going on the list then. This is really one for me to check out. It's funny that you've checked this out before I have.
Well, just to be fair, it came up on the playlist because the comment I was going to make was people have been writing up this album. And does that surprise me that much that people that feel like they have opinions about music absolutely want to talk about this album? No, it does not. This is like chum to the Jazz Sharks.
Yeah, for sure.
They cannot resist this. Like Blood in the Water. I can't. This is why I picked this a little bit, because I was like, I just can't imagine. I am never going to listen to this album.
Never.
I am never going to listen to this album.
Which is funny that you say it's like everyone's like really writing this up, because last year there was the Floating Points Pharaoh Sanders, rest in peace, album Promises, that literally everyone was like, perfect music, incredible art, like, and it literally is the same. Like, I think it is close to the same recording, but is mixed in different ways to bring out different elements of the composition. And so there's like 9 movements of it that is essentially sort of a similar composition, just sort of like rearranged in a way. And thank God you didn't that didn't cross your radar at all, because you would have died. But anyway, about the song itself. This is cool. I would make a soup to this. This sounds great. I'm not normally like a vocal jazz person. I know I'm not super really into like having like the vocals included, but I think because it's a little bit peppier, it's got a little bit more of I feel like usually a lot of like vocal jazz, it feels almost more like sorrowful, or it's more elongated. And I feel like it's very snappy, very peppy, and so it feels fun. And so I can see where you're coming from, where you're like, ooh, I'm putting in all sorts of different spices and little odds and ends here. And it's, ooh, we got a stew going, baby. So I think it's good. You did a good job, Sean.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I thought this would meet the challenge. It's not my favorite song on earth, but
yeah, I'm just saying everyone should just try jazz once, twice, 3 times. Just keep trying.
Don't let your kids do jazz. Jazz is a gateway genre.
If your child comes home at 10:30 at night and says, "Hey, Mom, I love jazz," you need to sit down with your child
and have a serious conversation.
And say, listen, there's 2 roads for you to go down, bud. One of them is the music major in college. The other one is back to whatever the hell you were listening to before.
Godsmack.
Because if you keep going down jazz road, you're gonna end up a music major, okay?
Well, maybe I can bring us back down to earth here with my pick.
Absolutely not, but yeah.
This week I chose Caminhos for Catoni by Abase. I don't know a lot about this track. It just came up on a playlist that I was listening to, and it seemed appropriate. I love the laid-back groove of it. You know, it's got a little bit of a funk feel, but not too much. I think the piano or keys here are a really interesting tone. Like it's some kind of electric piano, and it's just got like this really like muted feeling almost. Cool little vocal delivery that doesn't necessarily like take too much away. Yeah, and then I think the thing that really kind of like pushed me over the edge with it is the change up in the middle where the keys go away and you get the same beat but on an electric guitar. It's just kind of a cool change up on a like traditional like chill beat, so to speak. And I also think it's kind of appropriate for this challenge, right? I think if the first section is kind of the like more intricate, like you're chopping up all your ingredients phase, and then that second section is kind of the laid back, let it simmer phase. You're letting all those flavors marinate, baby. And then at the end you got a nice hot soup.
See, this song is a solid soup vibe. This is the clear winner. It has all the right components.
Which are?
It sounds cool. It's fun to listen to. It's not particularly difficult to listen to. I do love that like neo funk feel, and yeah, I could definitely hear this. Imagine having this on vinyl, playing it when I'm making soup. And I feel like vinyl is a very good medium for making soup too, which stinks because you're probably like, you know, you're gonna have like your hands all dirty and stuff, and at some point you're gonna have to figure out how to turn up over the record. But maybe that's okay.
Yeah, you get like 30-40 minutes on a side. You could do most of your soup prep in that time, I think.
You know, this song's awfully short for a song about making soup.
Oh, shut up.
You're gonna have to play the song a lot of times in order to make a soup. But no, you know, I feel like we've talked about this before when we've picked like a chill beat song where it's like, yeah, I mean like it's cool, but it's like how much do you really like say about it? Like I feel like there's a sort of like it's almost like the lack of like things happening in it is the point. It's sort of like it's just simple. And it gets you where you need to be, and it's like it's almost like you could judge the song almost based on like a 5 to 10 second like clip of it, because it's like it's gonna hang in that spot for probably a couple minutes, and you know I think it's cool. I mean I think the beat is nice. Do you happen to know like what? It doesn't matter. But like what the lyrics are saying or anything?
I sure don't.
Sure don't. But you're like, doesn't matter?
I don't even know what language they're in because from what I can tell, the musician behind this project was, let me see if I can get this right, born in Nigeria and now lives in Hungary. But his music is inspired by West African sounds, Brazilian music, and hip-hop. So I couldn't even tell you what language this would be in.
Yeah, that's certainly is well seasoned.
Yeah, like a soup, like a good soup.
Yeah, yeah, because I could definitely sense. And I feel like just on the tin you can sense that there's like a lot of sort of like small nuances to sort of like different influences there. that I feel like when you read aloud sort of like that trajectory, you're like, yeah, okay, I can see where those are coming from. I do enjoy the switch up towards in the back half. I think it's nice, especially as a metaphor for sort of like the different phases of making the soup. So yeah, I think it's cute. I think it's good. Do you? I forget. Did you say you had listened to this artist before? Like, did you like check out any of the?
Just found him on a
tracks?
playlist. Never listened to any of the other tracks or anything.
And I feel like that's almost kind of the problem with like that sort of genre anyway, is that it's like they're gonna have that song. And they're like, it's like a chill beat person is like gonna have like it's not like they're gonna have a whole album of this. It feels like they're almost sort of like they just have sprinklings of ideas. So yeah.
But hey, at least it's a good one.
Yeah.
All right, and with that, it's time for B-sides, and these are songs that were so close to getting picked but didn't quite make it. Does anybody have B-sides for this week?
I have two. Hanging On by Moon King and Hive Mind by Tirza, the Speaker's Corner Quartet remix. Both kind of in this same space.
I would also say that I posted the listeners' submissions. Nobody knew anything about soup. Now listen. I understand. Washing hands. How do you pick a song for washing hands? But making a soup, y'all have made a soup before, and you've listened to a song during it. Y'all gotta step it up. But
Liars! All of you are liars.
yeah. Don't make us do a Roll Arena ad break again. We'll do it. Anyway, Something Has to Change by the Japanese House. Feel like that was the second song that was on the list, and I was like,
Okay, let me check this song out.
Something Has to Change. Japanese.
You can keep going.
Okay. And this was almost more of just for fun. Evermore, off of Evermore.
Yeah, okay.
Which is like
Get some T-Swift.
yeah, and I didn't choose it just because we got enough of her on this playlist right now. We gotta chill it out, especially with best of season right around the corner. Also, I feel like I mostly picked it because I hadn't actually listened to it before, and like a YouTuber did like a 4-hour video essay about a fairy tale park called Evermore, and somehow the song was like got somehow thrown into the mix of that. Anyway, it does not matter. But the second song, I think this was actually going to be my pick had I really went with my gut, which is Young Hearts Run Free by Candy Staten. Which is also like a sort of a song about, it's like a song about like heartbreak, and it's like sort of like really choosing your battles in regards to like who you kind of get stuck with. So it's peppy, it's nice, it's got a beautiful horn section, and she's got a really like soaring vocal performance that's like, oh, this is fun, I love this.
This is good. You should have picked this one.
Which one?
Young Hearts Run Free.
Yeah. I agree.
This is a good vibe for making soup.
Yeah.
This is like a happy soup. Do you cry into your soup? I feel like you're making a lot of cry soups. Are you okay?
No cry soups.
You need to talk about it on the show.
Listen,
You can talk about it on Billy Joe.
I'm not crying in my soup. I was just listen.
No, but Sean's right. If you want to cry into your soup, or if you want to hear why Tyler's crying into his, you can get our Patreon exclusive bonus podcast. It comes out once a month. We're about to record a new episode right after we finish this. Patreon.com/NoRepeatPod. $1 a month is all it takes. You get a whole extra episode. You should do it. It's fun.
Yeah.
But Tyler, if people want to reach out to you, where can they do that?
Hey everybody, you can find my design and illustration work at rudepets.club, and as always, find me on social as Rude Pets Club on Instagram or Twitter.
Sean, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram at TellySean.
And I am begrudgingly still on Twitter at TC Olmstead. All of these songs will be on the official No Repeat podcast playlist on Apple Music and Spotify. And we'll be back next week with the first of our 3 end-of-year wrap-up episodes of No Repeat.